Hello, everybody. Joining me today is Professor Philip Kotler, co author of Regeneration and Distinguished Professor of International Marketing at the Kellogg School of Management at Northwestern University. Professor Kotler, thank you so much for joining us on Drucker Forum TV.
I'm very happy to discuss this new book that I wrote and to have an interview with Justin.
So let's start a little bit broadly. Let's define some terms because in the book and in a couple of your subsequent articles, you have some, I don't know if it's new, but you have some definitions for a few things. So one of the things we're really interested in is this social good marketing. But how do we prevent that from turning into more like a toxic ideology? There's certainly a balance there. I'm not sure if you'd agree, but let's start here. How do we define social good? Let's find some common ground there, and then we'll move forward. How do you define that?
Well, I've been a big advocate of thinking about the common good in everything that we do. How does it impact the lives? What does it do to enhance the lives of people? Now, the common good it can be defined in many ways. For example, uh, a narrow definition would be the common good includes the road system of a community, the public parks, the police protection, the courts, public schools, museums. All of those, and the list goes on, are part of the public good. That is, these are public goods, and every community should have public goods as well. But we're also interested in the way a business operates. And fortunately, more and more businesses believe that they should not only maximize profits, as a matter of fact, they don't use the term anymore about maximizing, but under Milton Friedman, my former professor at the University of Chicago, he convinced so many businesses that they have no other responsibilities but making money, and that has now changed seriously. Most businesses say they have social responsibilities.
Yeah, I mean that's true. That's so true. We'll get into that as well. There's a lot to get into. One of the things in the book is the public, not the market, should define social good. And I think for most people at the Peter Drucker Forum, most management and business leaders, it's really hard for them to delineate between and make a difference between the public and the market. And so in the book, clearly you make a distinction. So what is that distinction? What's an easy way to define those?
We expect three groups to be operating in any community. There's the private businesses, and they're basically operating for profit, increasingly for sustainable profit, because of the new idea that we don't want to ruin the planet by overheating it. Secondly, there are the public administrators who are trying to make as good a life for the citizens of that community as possible. And thirdly, there are a lot of associations, nonprofit associations, plurality associations, Greenpeace, and Sierra Club that want to take care of things that business is not taking care of, but the community would benefit from. So all three should be interested in protecting and enhancing the common good. By the way, businesses often are not covering all their costs. They go and use resources and let waste occur here and there. They don't reuse the resources. They're not committed to what we call circularity, where you refine your resources, you recycle them, and you reuse them. Um, so this problem is a keen one because that means that we fill our communities with junk yards of resources that no one is making any use of, and mountains of those occur. And we want to have a new ecology, a new understanding of how resources ought to be used by business profitably, of course.
Yeah, and that makes a lot of sense. I think the confusing thing for most leaders, though, is understanding what is the public versus the market. Like, who do we actually listen to? Because some of the stakeholders you mentioned, which I agree with you, but some of the stakeholders you mentioned, I. In my opinion, I would call those the public. So finding a common definition of common good, I think, is a challenge. But I'd like to move on versus like public good versus toxic ideology. I guess I should start here. Do consumers still expect brands to stand for their beliefs? I know that this is in marketing, this is something a lot of marketers believe. Is that still true or has that changed?
Well, look, the aim of marketing is actually to create, communicate, and deliver value to target markets at a profit. And in doing that, companies are operating in in the space of a lot of stakeholders and pressures and so on. And when you raise the question of defining whose definition of the common good do we accept and work for, well, the fact is that all the stakeholders have their own definitions of the common good. Um, I can list, as I did, the parks and the museums and some things that are for the common good that everyone agrees to. There will be the debates about whether some particular thing is for the common good or not by some stakeholder group. But the book wasn't written about that so much. It was written about many cities and towns and communities are dying. Um, they don't have to die. So they take certain steps to not regeneration, not even recycling. They simply say, you know what? We need an advertising community ad. We need an ad like New York City got alive again with the advertisement, the Big Apple, they say. So, can you, Dr. Kotler, help us find an ad campaign to get people to want to invest in us? And maybe we're trying to attract new residents, tourists, and so on. An ad can do it, can't it? And I say, no. First of all, you may be a bad place to begin with, and the ad will just bring people who go away not wanting anything to do with you. So the first thing is, what are you like as a community now? And don't advertise. If you're a bad community now, advertising will kill you worse. It will make it worse. It will just show more people how bad you are. So the question that we wrote the book around is how to regenerate a community, uh, protect its assets, repair its assets. Every community has some assets, and then to when we reach a point, we can advertise that we have a very good community and we want more tourists. And then we get into advertising for tourists, for new residents, new businesses, and so on.
And so there are a lot of ideas in the book. Obviously, I read it, and one of the major ideas is how brands should like lead with their beliefs. They should really live out those beliefs because ideally their consumers also want those beliefs. And we've seen this happening in the market right now. We see like Nike and Target, make standing for their beliefs, but we also see that they were the biggest quarter 3 market cap decliners from Seeking Alpha. So I know a lot of CMOs, I know a lot of leaders are like in this belief that I think we should stand for this thing, but they're also a little concerned because does standing for your beliefs always pay off economically, or sometimes does it hurt economically?
Yes, you're citing cases for Target and one of the beer companies and so on, where it cost them business and volume when they took a side, described what their beliefs are as a company. For example, let's say that both of them said gay rights are very important. Well, what's happening now? We have a country where there's the blue side and the red side, and The red side says gayness shouldn't be talked about. Don't say gay, because that's going to encourage more children to think there's other lifestyles. So let's shut down any talk like that. Well, the companies that were hurt believe that we have to respect all people, gay and other people, uh, other religions, and so on and so forth. And they're good companies. But what happened is, there is this group that really wants to control more the nature of the country, the what the country wants to stand for, and they're caught up in this. Now, the safest thing for companies is not to take any value position, any social issues, unless they're very high consensus issues. Yes, when there's a water shortage, they could advocate doing things to improve the water supply, and no one is upset with that because it affects everyone. So, sure, there's a lot of issues where there's high consensus and there's no, and the company should express its support, but it's kind of daring to take issues that are toxic now or made toxic by one political party or the other. And I don't know if that means Target should go. Both of those companies, the beer company and Target, what they started to do is talk about
Too. If
the
you're Bud Light, what
gay.
you're talking about, that's a great point.
Yeah, they put it in the background now. They want to soften and maybe disconnect temporarily with pushing that idea. So you're raising an excellent question about, because on the one hand, we like to know what kind of companies we're buying from. We want their, and if we like the company, we want their brand to be successful too, because the brand is a set of claims about what performance they're going to create for us. Um, but I think companies have to be more careful now, because as long as there is a divided mind in the country about what is right and what is wrong.
And that's absolutely correct, right? Because I wouldn't say like I don't want to make. I'm not going to get into the politics of everything. Obviously, we want to remain neutral
Yeah.
on Drucker Forum TV. But obviously, someone on the one extreme side or someone on the other extreme side, neither one of them think that they're wrong. They all think they are pursuing a common good, which is why finding that definition is a challenge when it comes to pursuing that common good. Like, I don't think Nike and Target leadership, for example, some of the other brand, you mentioned Bud Light, another good example. I would say Disney kind of got themselves in the middle of
Yes.
politics. But that's
Yeah.
not even the beginning, right? There is like, I would say My Pillow got political, right? They got in the middle of politics. Jeremy's Razors and
Right.
Jeremy's Chocolate, this is a Daily Wire company, versus Hershey's and Harry's, X and Twitter versus Facebook. There's a new beer company called Ultra Right Beer, apparently. And then there was also Penzies telling Republicans, don't shop here. We don't. So, brands used to sell to markets regardless of politics, or maybe I'm incorrect on that. You'd probably know better than me. But these days, some of the brands on every side, on every ideology, are becoming activists. Are we
Hmm.
seeing an economic civil war starting to form, like brands representing very specific political positions?
Yes, there's some of that happening, and I think it's not desirable. I think that it's going to lead to a reaction where most large companies will say, better not get political at all, better not say what our values are. In fact, some might even say that there's even disagreement within our firm about gayness or other values. So it isn't our job to be political. By our behavior and our performance, our customers will know what we believe in without us necessarily going explicit on any set of beliefs. It's dangerous to be now taking a side. Here's the thing, there's a truth on both sides, on the red and the blue, just like in the current issue about Palestine and Israel. There's truth on both sides. And what I always say is you need to talk about the total truth, not your truth versus their truth. What's the total truth? And reasonable people will get along with each other talking that way. Okay,
Yeah, I can. No, I
but the
completely
book,
agree. And that. Oh, go ahead.
yeah. So the book Regeneration, who is it for? Who should care about regeneration? And I would say it has to do with the fact that you can drive through many towns in the United States, and they're shrinking. They're losing the young people because there aren't the opportunities. I mean, is it possible to thrive as a small town? Well, yes, there are some small towns that are so attractive to residents and certainly to tourists that they don't have the problem. But the question is, the town that has been losing population and support has to sit down with the mayor, with a commission that is set up to attract tourists or to attract new residents, whatever, or to even attract business firms to locate in that town and develop a plan. And it's not going to be based on an ad.
Hmm.
Uh, an ad will hurt the town because it's not in good shape yet. And then what the book gets into is a lot of the previous work done by uh, in sociology and by community-minded people. You remember the name of a woman named Jacobs? Let's see. Yeah, and she was very important in trying to talk about how neighborliness and loving working together can save and make communities more vibrant. But the
Hmm.
main thing I wanted to say is let's take a real case. Let's take the community of Houston in Texas.
And
Why
can you
why
put can
that?
you can you make that point briefly? Because I know that we're very limited on time with you. I wish we could go longer, but if you
Okay.
want to bring that to a close and then tell us where to find the book, that would be helpful
Yes.
because we're
Okay.
running up
I
on time.
understand. Oh, of course, of course. It was going to be a shorter interview, but it may be pointing at the essence. Houston is a city with some very poor neighborhoods, and the mayor is a sign of what we need done. He says every Houstonian should know their neighborhood matters. It isn't that only the rich neighborhoods matter. We have to move poor neighborhoods from recovery to resilience and to get them to be economically viable. And we'll use our private and our public and our nonprofit sectors, those three, to bring those neighborhoods, which are well identified now, and to bring the resources to those neighborhoods that will make them alive again and well again. All right, that's what the book is about.
Professor Philip Kotler. Professor Philip Kotler, there we go, co author of Regeneration. Thank you so much for joining us on Drucker Forum TV.
Justin, thank you for your questions, and I appreciate the opportunity to share this important thing to save communities and make them alive again. Thank you.